evidently destroyed, the stairs shattered and buried in soil. At the far end of the chamber was a vault door composed of bronze, with no apparent means of access and seemingly impenetrable without proper equipment. The vault door displayed the House of Habsburg's coat of arms, along with the engraved words Ad Puritatem Sanguinis, meaning for purity of blood. Operatives were ordered to hold their current location and await the arrival of an infiltration team, while other Foundation agents organized the temporary evacuation of the Hofburg and the sealing of all sewer access points throughout the city. MTF agents maintained shifts throughout the night, making repeated attempts to open the vault door. At noon the following day, the surface had been fully evacuated, and an infiltration team had arrived at the crypt. Using oxy-fuel torches over the course of 2 hours, the bronze gate was carved apart, bypassing intricate mechanisms which were likely related to opening it normally. Inside of it, they found a spiral staircase, and an 8-person squad equipped with heavy tactical armor and M16 rifles were sent in. Their radio transmissions grew increasingly faint as they traveled an estimated 65 meters underground. Reaching the bottom of the stairwell, they found that the gray stone of the crypt had been replaced with masterfully crafted marble floors, carpets, and white painted walls and ceilings. The large chamber here was found to be architecturally identical to the Swiss wing of Hofburg Palace, closely resembling the styles popular during the 18th century. The location also contained various sculptures and Corinthian columns, while paintings and tattered tapestries adorned its walls. All depictions of the human form had been literally defaced, regardless of artistic medium. The operatives described the air as having an odor not dissimilar to rotten meat and stale sweat, with the floor and walls discolored with what appeared to be exceptionally old blood. Traveling through a southeast corridor, operatives entered what appeared to be the area's equivalent of the Hofburg's Imperial Library, with the difference being the presence of a working 18th century laboratory. One of the operatives, fluent in both German and Latin, discovered documents involving alchemy, biology, and the occult. A decorative writing desk and accompanying throne were located at the far end of the chamber, with the desk containing documents relating to transactions, contracts, and private journals. Continuing on, they reached the ballroom and opera hall, describing the air as especially fetid, although there was also the presence of perfume. The area contained a number of musical instruments, all of which displayed evidence of recent use. There were several elongated tables located throughout the chamber, meaning that this ballroom was evidently used as a dining hall as well. Atop the tables were human remains in various levels of decomposition and culinary presentation. A bell abruptly began to toll and was followed by the automatic music of a nearby pipe organ, which played for approximately 3 minutes. When the pipe organ ceased playing discordant music, it was followed by the sound of opening doors and an increasing number of shuffling footsteps. 7 of the operatives managed to hide behind the curtains of the opera hall, but one tripped over a pile of bones and was forced to take cover behind a harpsichord. The ballroom's wide gates opened as video revealed the dim light of lanterns swaying in the hands of a number of 3288 entities, dressed in the garb of 18th century courtiers. They are followed by others, wearing increasingly extravagant, although ragged, attire. All of the outfits appeared to contain different shades of red, deeply contrasting with their chalk-white skin, porcelain masquerade masks, and powdered wigs. A pair of smaller entities entered behind the others, one blowing a rusty trumpet, while the other acted as a standard bearer, holding a crudely painted ensign depicting a red lion on a black field. The trumpeter appeared to make an announcement, but the words are unintelligible due to the guttural nature of their speech. The trumpeter and standard bearer then quickly moved aside, although their stunted legs caused them to tumble and roll as they fled. There now appeared to be several hundred 3288 entities throughout the ballroom, and one of the operatives activated a silent distress call, requesting heavy support. All of the entities then proceeded to kneel and lower their heads, as an exceptionally corpulent 3288 entity entered the room, carried by other entities via an enlarged and reinforced chair. The morbidly obese individual, classified as 3288-Alpha, was dressed in a patchwork of noble finery, stitched together from various fabrics to create a single outfit capable of fitting its frame. It also wore a crown that was too small for its head, held in place by an overgrowth of flesh, and in place of a masquerade mask, it hid its face beneath a red shroud. A large iron cauldron was delivered to the Alpha's table, the container appearing to vibrate of its own accord. A small 3288 entity climbed atop the Alpha's shoulder, proceeding to lift its red veil while leaving its eyes covered, while another small entity removed the cauldron's cover. The Alpha sniffed the air before lifting the cauldron and pouring its contents down its anomalously large mouth and gullet. Part of its meal wiggled free, revealing that the cauldron contained living infants displaying severe deformities. The other entities then raised their masks and began to feast with voracious enthusiasm. During the feast, an exceptionally tall specimen approached the harpsichord and grabbed the agent hiding behind it. It then lifted him by his head, unhinged its jaw, and quickly forced him down its throat, feet first, while the other entities continued feasting. The gathering eventually became orgiastic, making no distinction between the apparent age or sex of the participants, willing or otherwise. An explosion, however, rocked the event, causing mass casualties among the 3288. It's hypothesized that the devoured agent survived his ordeal and was able to eventually activate an explosive device, sacrificing himself in order to terminate or otherwise incapacitate a great number of hostile entities. Panic spread among the remaining 3288, and the other operatives used the opportunity to chemically sedate the survivors. With the arrival of reinforcements, the surviving 3288 entities were secured and contained at the nearest humanoid containment site. The sheer size of the Alpha entity, however, necessitated the use of a specialized crane, and the creation of a shaft directly connecting the underground chamber to the surface. Following the removal of the Alpha, as well as all relevant documents and objects, the underground area was filled with cement and reburied. An interview was performed between a Foundation researcher and the Alpha entity. The entity weighs more than 1,600 kilograms, and its legs have atrophied, but is still considered dangerous. It's also blind and incapable of reading or writing, with the interior of its hollow sockets having pushed outward to the point of prolapse. It's fluent in Austrian German, specifically preferring to speak a dialect that was spoken by the Imperial Habsburg family and the nobility of Austria-Hungary. The researcher begins by asking the entity its name, stating that its cooperation is not optional. The entity is angered, however, that the meat wishes to speak, and should only speak when spoken to. It then asks why the meat is taunting it with an intoxicating aroma as saliva spills from its muzzle. The doctor states again that cooperation is not optional, and activates electrodes placed on the entity, causing it to shudder and growl. This only serves to further confuse the entity, asking how can meat hurt it, and how can meat disobey? The researcher activates the electrodes again, although the Alpha entity doesn't seem affected by them this time. Instead, it tells the researcher that they do not submit, they dominate. It tells him that they will devour him and his peasant kin, and their witchcraft will not harm him because their blood is pure and resilient. The researcher, however, merely turns to the security officer and asks him to illuminate the subject because his vision doesn't work so well in these dim cells. The security officer turns his flashlight onto the entity, immediately causing him to scream and convulse, crying that it yields and that their soul skitters from the flame. The officer turns off his flashlight, and the researcher says that he noticed light sensitivity during the entity's transfer, even without having eyes. He asks again its name, and the entity says that it is the Imperial Majesty, Emperor Maximilian the Great, King of Austria and Patriarch of the House of Habsburg. It then attempts a courtly bow and apologizes for its uncouth ways, as the doctor is clearly a superior creature and has asserted himself. He asks if the doctor would like to feast upon its flesh.